Hey Bryant, what are you doing?
Well, I'm trying to get a good look at Atlas, the giant that holds up the sky, but there's something weird about him. His entire body is blacked out. It's like something's protecting his privacy.
That's not Atlas. That's Atlas VPN.
What? This video was brought to you by Atlas VPN. Do you have, controversial opinions about Disney movies that make you wish you had a way of hiding your identity so that you could avoid the fiery stares and cold, all-encompassing ire of the mouse? Then do I have the virtual private network for you. Atlas VPN is here to keep you safe while going about your online business, and right now Atlas is running a huge discount that lets you get 3 years of online protection for just $1.83 a month, with 3 extra months of service thrown in absolutely free. If you want a VPN that was built with streaming in mind, that is constantly on the lookout for data breaches, and that is dedicated to giving you the best deals while shopping online, then Atlas is the VPN for you. Go to atlasv.pn/explanation point or follow the link in the description. Now on to this.
I analyze media professionally, and while that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm good at it, it does mean that I do it a lot. So I've gotten pretty good at looking at something and saying, oh, that's why people like this, even if I myself do not like it. Cool animation, exciting fight scenes, and a semblance of political intrigue that hints at a broader commentary on the real world. Imaginative universe that sets the stage for any number of stories still contained in a child-friendly and easily accessible package. Small-minded tribalism that manipulates unfortunate poor people into thinking that their ships will come in as soon as X minority stops doing whatever it is they're doing to keep their team down, or you're rich. So when I watched Disney's smash hit Encanto and came up with nothing, I figured saying that it wasn't all that great would be an uncontroversial take, and boy howdy was I wrong. You internet folk really like Encanto, and I didn't get it. I had to watch YouTube videos explaining it to get it. I had to make a Twitter thread asking you to help me get it to get it. And you know what? You're wrong. Alright, you're not wrong. You're never wrong for liking something. God knows I like my share of absolute garbage media, but some of the points that keep getting brought up just made me think, are we watching the same movie? Because this one does basically nothing right, and I don't get it. The biggest thing that came up time and time again was the music, and that is frustratingly subjective and incontrovertible. I can't tell you you're wrong for liking a music. But regardless of how you feel about Lin-Manuel Miranda's kickin' tunes, I can at least objectively say that the songs do a very poor job at doing pretty much anything they're supposed to do. There are 5.5 songs in Encanto. 4 of them are trite garbage. Like, the intro song, The Family Madrigal, is bad. To be fair, I don't really see anyone going to bat for this one, but Genghis Kringus, it is obnoxious. Subjectively, it hurts to listen to. The tempo is insane, which does make for a very high-energy opening number, but it also made me think that Mirabel was speaking Spanish during a good chunk of it, and believing that I wasn't intended to understand what she said made me like it more. Because the things that she is saying don't matter. This movie has an enormous problem with telling instead of showing when it comes to conveying important information, and that shortcoming is bravely put on display from the very beginning. It feels like this movie is so scared that we're going to get confused that it has to hold up a giant neon sign that tells us exactly what's going on at all times. Sometimes literally, like, what is this? Is this really the best way you could come up with to tell us that this film takes place in Colombia? If the setting of your story is important, then make it important. If it is not important, then why have the sign? Sorry, rambling. The Family Madrigal. As a song, it plays right into these same kind of pitfalls. It functions as a giant neon sign. It's a roll call, functioning the same way as the nameplates in the opening of Baccano or My Hero Academia, and I usually make anime content if you're just here for the Disney. But the big difference between the lines in The Family Madrigal and the pictures of the heroes of Class 1A flashing across the screen is that The Family Madrigal takes up so much time to say nothing. If you have so many characters that you need to spend 5% of your runtime telling us their names and superpowers and nothing else, then you need a 12-episode Disney Plus miniseries, not a movie. I'm generally not a fan of movies. I think it takes a whole lot of skill to elegantly fit a compelling story into 90 minutes, and that's when you only have 3 characters and a villain. There are over a dozen named characters in this song. We don't need to know who all these people are, especially not right at the front of the film. Spend this time focusing on Mirabel and her relationship to the family at large. Choose some specific people, her mother, her grandmother, Antonio, Luisa, or Isabella, because they're the same character. For everyone else, sprinkle them throughout the movie as needed. Give them small moments that show the audience who they are and what they do, instead of telling them, or better yet, cut them entirely. This film runs for 109 minutes, including credits. That is not even 8.5 minutes per her character. You do not have time to flesh out this kind of cast in a movie. Cut Dolores, cut Peppa, cut Luisa or Isabella. Or if you don't get rid of them altogether, give them the Camilo treatment. Camilo was the perfect character for a movie about a huge family. He stays in the background, making the house feel full and lived in. He has a great power for memorable comedic moments, and he doesn't even try to take screen time away from the important things. He is a garnish, not a person. He's there to make the rest of the movie taste better without drawing attention to himself, and he does a great job of it. The biggest offender here is Luisa, or Isabella. They're the same character. I just think that Isabella's conflict is a little better supported on screen. Luisa is a fan favorite, if Twitter is to be believed. So many people hear her song and they can relate to feeling like they alone have to deal with all of their family's crap without ever showing a single bead of sweat, and that's great. For every older sister watching this in a theater and seeing herself carry every hardship she can so that her siblings will never know strife, that has gotta be some dang good catharsis. And it's a shame that it isn't supported by the film at all. Surface Pressure is a fun song. I like listening to it, and it could have been very powerful if it were given to a character with a little more meat. Luisa sings about being the stalwart protector of the family, taking on all the burdens of sisterhood in unflinching silence, but she doesn't, though. What burdens? The only burdens we see her carrying through the film are literal burdens. Donkeys, pianos, churches, and yes, I know what a metaphor is, but metaphors only work if we know what they're metaphors for. In the entire film, Luisa is never criticized by Abuela, she never speaks to her parents, and she never stands up for either of her sisters. Let's imagine a movie wherein Mirabel and Isabella were being unduly pressured by Abuela to fit certain familial roles. They really aren't, but let's imagine that they are. You know what would be a lot of pressure in a family like that? Being the person who stands up to authority to do what's right. Being the person who tells grandma off because it's kind of screwed up to make Isabella marry a man she doesn't want to, or to pick on Mirabel for being magic disabled. Or maybe she could face the pressure of having to hold everyone together. Like, maybe Dolores' side of the family is picking on Mirabel really hard for not having a power, and Mirabel's side of the family thinks that's pretty screwed up, and Luisa is trying to hold them both together. Just anything. Anything specific that's causing Luisa to feel all this pressure that she says she feels. But this part I do get. I get why people are so attracted to the character who always has to live up to expectations. The one who does what's best for the family no matter how much she doesn't want to. The one who suffers in silence, knowing that any cracks in her facade are going to leave the family in utter disarray. The one who always has to be perfect. You know, Isabella. You have this character. The one who actually suffers in silence because she doesn't get a trendy bop about how much she hates her life. But we do see Isabella suffer. We see her take on burdens for the sake of the family, unlike Luisa. Give Isabella Luisa's body, power, and screen time, and you might have a great character on your hands. As it is, you're splitting this story between two characters, and that means that each of them gets half the development they need. You know what this feels like to me? It feels like this film went through a lot of revisions. It feels like in an early draft of this script, Luisa had a lot more explicit duty to the family. Or like Isabella and Luisa's characters were combined in early stages of writing, and they split off in later edits. Then, as the story changed, they either already had this boppin' song and they felt compelled to use it, or they didn't check to make sure that it still made sense with the new script. And it feels this way with a lot of things. Notably, Bruno, who was, I have heard, intended in early drafts to be a villain, which, whether that's true or not, would make a whole lot of sense. We Don't Talk About Bruno is the one song in the film that really works. But the problem with Bruno's character is that everyone else is an idiot. These people clearly understand how Bruno's power works. Not only do they talk about it in explicit terms that make it clear that they understand how it works, he can bring other people into his visions and just show them. He sees what's going to happen in the future. He doesn't make it happen. He doesn't curse people. He's just a normal, half-deranged oracle living in his sand cave. So why do these people treat him like a black cat spilling salt under a broken ladder? Why does he have to flee to the walls? He didn't do anything wrong. Yet even Mirabel ends this song by saying she never should have brought up Bruno. God, what a bop. Again, there's a lot of good in this idea. The Cassandra story is classic. It just feels like it got lost in revisions. And now, my gentle people, if I may have your attention for a moment, I'd like to go over some quick nitpicky things that aren't really that important, but they bother me. Why does Mirabel not have a room? She has no magic, and therefore she has to live in the baby room for babies her entire life. Why can't Casita just give her a normal room? It doesn't have to be a fancy magic room. Just a nice bed, a few books, maybe a TV. Bruno gets a room. You think he hauled all this furniture through his little hole behind the painting and passed all these crossbeams games and pit traps? No, Casita gave him his little wall hovel to stay in, but Mirabel? Nope. You get to stay in the little baby nursery room, you little nursery baby. Can Dolores hear Bruno in the walls? Because either answer to that question is ridiculous. If she can't, yes she can. If she legitimately believes what she says about the rats talking in the walls, then she is dumber than a steering wheel on a roller coaster. And if she did know, then we're just supposed to believe she kept that a secret for however many years? That she knew her crazy and allegedly evil rat uncle was living in the walls and she just kept that to herself? This being the same person who couldn't keep her mouth shut about her family's magic battery running dry for one very important dinner? This woman kept that a secret? And speaking of that dinner, holy crap, what a mess of a scene. First of all, same criticism I just made, can none of these people keep their dang mouths shut for 10 minutes? Dolores, whatever, she's a gossip, that's an established character trait, but Felix? Peppa? These people just get wind of a rumor that the very thing securing their family's position of unrivaled natural and political supremacy is dying and they've just gotta tell someone? Also, why do they believe her? They don't believe Mirabel. Mirabel said the exact same thing at Antonio's magic bar mitzvah and everyone was just like, silly, non-magical, unimportant wretch of a girl. The miracle can't die. Oh look, grandmother's brought us a cake. Not to mention that she got this information by overhearing the very person that these people didn't believe to begin with. And then there are these little... Are these raccoons? What are these? These small Colombian vermin. What did Antonio say to these creatures? Why do they have such a vendetta against this family that they're going out of their way to put the pieces of this vision together on a platter so that it can be shoved in front of Abuela's face at an opportune moment? Or do they just like puzzles? Is this a Colombian thing? Does Colombia have puzzle squirrels? I hate this scene. But fine, that's a plot contrivance and it's delightfully chaotic. I'll let it slide. What I cannot let slide is this woman. Specifically, her being portrayed as some kind of manipulator, abuser, or otherwise unfit grandparent. Is that what she was intended to be? The internet sure makes it seem so, but that's not backed up in the story at all. Abuela Madrigal is a strong matriarch. She does have her ideas about how a family should be run and how to address the needs of her weird family in particular, and sometimes those ideas run counter to what we would consider good. But the thing is, nobody ever tells Abuela that she's doing things that are not good for the family, if they even believe that she is. From the outside, the biggest misstep that I see Abuela taking is setting up an arranged marriage for Isabella. That's pretty, by today's standards, but from her perspective, it's nothing more than finding a nice, suitable, handsome, and well-connected man for her oldest granddaughter. She thinks that she is doing a good thing for her family at large and for Isabella specifically. And here's the kicker, nobody ever challenges that. Nobody says, hey grandma, maybe don't insert yourself directly into Isabella's bedroom, okay? If Isabella had ever told her grandmother, hey, I don't want to marry Mariano Guzman, but Dolores does, I am loath to think that Abuela would react in any way other than, oh, well, let's introduce them then. If, on screen, anybody, preferably Luisa, stood up to Abuela on anything, and then Abuela shrugged them off and insisted that her way of doing things was the only right way for the family, then I might be more willing to see this point of view. But everybody, even Isabella, just goes along with it. Imagine getting married to this Dollar General brand Flynn Rider knockoff because you're too self-conscious to say no to your grandma. Most people who defend Encanto say that it's a story about generational trauma. This being the idea that traumatic events can create beliefs, thoughts, and behavior patterns in one person that are then passed down intentionally or unintentionally to that person's children, grandchildren, etc. What does a film with that theme look like? It looks like Coco, where you have ancestors issuing decrees from beyond the grave about what can and cannot be done by their family members. It looks like Abuela constantly fritting and fretting about Isabella's appearance because she can never be perfect enough on screen. It looks like Abuela always giving Luisa new tasks to do for the villagers until she gets overwhelmed on screen. It looks like Abuela actively shutting down discussions about Bruno on screen. And sure, you can have these characters tell us all you want that their family is falling apart and that their grandmother is a tyrant, but when you have smiles like this and parties like this as the norm on screen, then I'm gonna have a hard time believing it. But what about Mirabel? Surely I can't believe that her treatment of Mirabel is justified. Oh, viewers, viewer, you underestimate my ability to form and defend bad takes. Why is the miracle dying? I don't know. Abuela certainly doesn't know. But here's the thing, it cannot be because of the way Abuela treats Mirabel specifically, because it started with Mirabel not getting a gift. And even if it was meant to be because of the way Abuela pressures the rest of the family to succeed, that doesn't make any sense because the pressuring started because the miracle was dying. If we admit that there's pressuring at all, which I don't, everyone in this family is happy. Everyone except for Luisa, Isabella, and Mirabel. Luisa because she's asked to physically lift too many things. Isabella because she refuses to stand up for herself. And Mirabel because she is a self-admitted, powerless, pathetic, and jealous little scrub with no magic who nobody listens to about the demise of their family because their family is legitimately doing fine. But okay, let's look at the way Abuela treats Mirabel. Frankly, given that Abuela has every reason to believe that Mirabel is the reason the miracle is dying, I think she treats her surprisingly well. Mirabel does not get a gift, which is really super mega sus. Bruno goes to Abuela with his vision about Mirabel potentially causing the end of the miracle. If Bruno cannot be wrong, that's bad. If Bruno can be wrong, then that's not a superpower, I can do that. Mirabel interrupts Antonio's gift ceremony by claiming that the house is falling apart, which is something that only she witnesses, which makes it look like a jealous hissy fit from the point of view of anybody else. Mirabel sticks her nose into every family sore spot trying to figure out what's going on behind the scenes, which makes Abuela think that her meddling is making things worse, because that's when the cracks start forming. And for the longest time, all this woman does is say, hey, Mirabel, maybe stay out of the way. If Abuela were anywhere near as controlling and vindictive as the internet makes her out to be, Mirabel would have been Bruno'd day one. And when Abuela finally does blow up and scream at Mirabel, it's only after Mirabel has finally seemingly caused exactly what Abuela was afraid would happen. And look what she says.
The crack started with you.
True.
Bruno left because of you.
True.
Luisa's losing her powers because of you.
Technically false, but very reasonable to think.
Isabella's out of control because of you.
True! From Abuela's point of view, Mirabel's existence is literally tearing her house apart. Given the circumstances, I don't see how anybody can argue that she's been anything but exceedingly fair to the poor malevolent child. In the end, Encanto is a film that tries to do a lot of important things, and I think people see the messages that it's trying to send, and they mistake that for sending those messages. They see Luisa singing about bearing all the pressure of her family, and they're so happy to see a character who deals with the same things they do that they just take her at her word and assume that she actually does, regardless of whether or not that's shown on screen. There is nothing wrong with projecting yourself onto a character or a situation. One of my most popular videos is basically just me doing exactly that, and I think it turned out really well. But it's very important to separate the reality of what's on screen from the subjective catharsis that comes from seeing struggles like yours represented in a blockbuster movie. There are movies that exist that deal with these kinds of issues that speak so deeply to so many people, and there are movies that treat those issues with all the depth and care that they deserved. This is not one of those movies, and you can ask for more.
So I was gonna do this cool parody of We Don't Talk About Bruno to close out the video and beg you for money, but then what am I supposed to say so I don't get demonetized for talking about COVID? I got tickets to the Backstreet Boys reunion tour. Point is, I'm in no position to sing because the Backstreet Boys are so loud. Today's lucky patron is Saint Game, who has been a $1 patron for 59 months. Holy crap. Literally holy crap. Thank you so much for your support. If you want to join us on our Discord server, read my notes and scripts, participate in our weekly game nights, or even have your own YouTubing criticized and worked on by yours truly, go to patreon.com/explanationpoint to find out how. Thank you to Atlas VPN for sponsoring this video. The online privacy situation is getting legit scary in a lot of the world, so make sure to take the necessary steps to protect your online data. Get 3 years of service for just $1.83 per month with 3 extra months thrown in totally free. Watch region-locked content from anywhere in the world. Get the best deals while shopping online, and be instantly alerted of any website data breaches so that you can quickly take all the steps you need to protect yourself. atlasv.pn/explanationpoint, link in the description. My next video is going to be a bit different from what I normally do, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button to make sure that you are notified. Apparently only like 30% of people who watch my videos are subscribed to me, so don't forget to do that. And also all the other YouTube stuff. Thank you for watching, and until next time, this has been Explanation Point. Wear a mask and stay indoors.